Hi, welcome to Hey Parents, Let's Chat, where the more we share, the more we learn, and the better parents we become. Um, Today, I wanted to have a conversation about spoiled children versus children who are just spoiled. I feel like there's a difference between having a kid that is spoiled and having a spoiled brat. And so this conversation is going to be about what the difference is between the two. How do we have one without having the other? How do we raise children who grow to learn to appreciate and just aren't bratty, right? I mean, that's just not attractive when you have kids that are, bratty, entitled, thinking that they can get whatever they want, whenever they want to. Um, and I want to talk about how to avoid that. I learned this concept early on. And before I even had kids, my one of my college roommates met her, wonderful person, just came from a wonderful family, and I just adored them. They became like my second family while I was in school, and she had like everything that she could possibly need. Yet she was very appreciative, very respectful. Um, and so I often wondered, like, wow, how can you have someone who has like just about everything that they could possibly need, yet she's so appreciative and respectful? There's not an ounce of brattiness in her. And so I always admired that from her parents. Like, how did you raise such an awesome kid? And so it started at a very early age for me as I was trying to pay attention to this concept. But put it off in the back burner until I decided to have kids. But I did have that in the back of my mind as something that I always wanted to achieve as a parent. And so when we had kids, I was a stay at home mom until my kids hit their school age years. And then I went to work in the school system, and I'm a teacher now. But what I did as a stay at home mom is I felt like my husband worked so super hard to provide for our family. And I wanted to be respectful and be appreciative of that. And so I was very mindful of how much money we spent. We did not, I feel blessed. We weren't like super rich. We're not super rich. But I did not ever feel like we went without. We weren't paycheck to paycheck kind of people. We planned ahead of time. We had a really good cushion in our savings. So if my husband ever lost his job, we would have money to pay the bills. And so we were very responsible and very smart financially. And so I felt like as a stay-at-home mom, I wanted to contribute to that, and I wanted to be responsible. So when I took my kids shopping, I was very mindful of what we spent and how we spent our money. And so I feel like that carried over into our children. My kids had what they needed, but they did not get everything that they wanted. And I feel like that's the key difference. And so here, let's define the difference between spoiled and spoiled brat. I feel like you can have kids who are spoiled. They have everything that they need. But when you have a spoiled brat, I feel like now we're moving into the wants, and they have everything they need, but they also get everything that they want. They get whatever they want, whenever they want to. They have a hard time hearing the word no. And so I was always very intentional with how we spent our money when we went shopping. My kids got what they needed. They did not always get what they wanted, even though we could afford it. There were times, on principle, dude, you're not getting that. And so they learned that no was no, and you didn't always get what you wanted, but you did always have what you need. So my kids were spoiled, but they did not grow up to be spoiled brats. And I think therein lies the real difference. And so I'll give you an example. So when we would go shopping, my son, who was really into sports, he was like one of these 3-season athletes, wanted to be in the NBA, like you name it, he wanted it. He was very athletic. And so every time he started a sport, every year, of course, his feet are growing, and so we'd have to get new sneakers. So we would go, and I would usually shop, the clearance racks. I always went to the clearance first. I still do. That's just, I don't know. Why spend full price if you don't have to? But um, we always went to good stores and always had, I wouldn't say we always had name brands, but when we did have name brands, like for instance, I might have gone to a sneaker store to get new cleats or something, um, and he would get his one pair. And he had friends who would have multiple pairs of cleats and multiple pairs of sneakers. And I'd be like, no, honey, we're going to buy you one pair of what you need. And even though we could have afforded to buy him two or three pairs of sneakers, just on principle, you don't need it. You don't need to have three pairs of sneakers. And so I was very mindful of not overspending or spending unnecessarily. I feel like that's where you jump into the brattiness, where if you are spending and let's say your kid wants to have three pairs of sneakers and you go ahead and you buy it because that's what he wants. And once you're giving your kids every single thing that they want, they're going to have less appreciation. And they're going to feel entitled to get what they want every time they ask for it. And there comes the bratty behavior, the unappreciative behavior. And so, how to avoid that? Say no. On principle, you might be able to afford it, but that doesn't mean you have to. Another example is with my son and his sports, and this actually applied to both of our kids. But when my kids were playing sports, we always played rec sports through the rec department, and that was great. But then they got into the age, and their interests expanded, and then travel teams were now an option. And so when my son wanted to go play on travel teams, I would say sure, on one condition, and that is that if you're going to play travel, you're also going to play rec. I felt like if I said yes to travel, that sometimes some of those travel teams, they get very elitist. Some of the kids become very arrogant, and I didn't want that to happen with my kids. And so I wanted my kids to know I will support you in whatever that you have interest in. If you have an interest, then I will pay for it. We will travel. We will support you, as long as you are committed, but as long as you also play rec. And so we did. Both of my kids played rec and travel. And so I wanted to make sure that my kids weren't feeling like they were better than anybody else just because they played on a travel team. And I didn't want them to feel like they were arrogant. I didn't want them to be arrogant because they were playing on a travel team. And so I think that these are just some of the differences in how you can raise kids. And these are some of the ways that you can have kids that have what they need, but don't get every single thing that they want. And I think that that's how you can avoid having kids that grow up with bratty behavior or bratty attitudes. And I do feel like my kids are spoiled. They get what they need. They don't ever go without, because I feel like that's part of our job as parents, is to provide for our children. But they know what it's like to hear the word no. And they know that we're going to spend money responsibly, and we're not going to spend money unnecessarily just because we can. And so another thing that I thought was super important is that even, for instance, when they went to go buy vehicles, we did not go buy one for them. Could we have? Yeah, we probably could have, but we didn't feel like that was responsible. And so we wanted them to appreciate and learn the value of money. So they went to work as soon as they were of age, and we told them that with their first vehicle, we would pay for half of it. So they would have to work and earn, like, let's say they wanted a vehicle that was worth $6,000. They would have to just work up to 3,000, and then we would pay the rest. And then from there on out, they would pay for their own vehicles. And that's literally how it worked. We paid for half of their first, and then after that, both of my kids, they pay for their own vehicles. And they've learned how to pay for them in cash because they've learned the value of money. They've learned how to save. And that I feel like I need to dedicate a whole other video to. But they have learned how to take care of themselves. They've learned the value of money. They've had everything that they need, but they're not spoiled brats. And so I hope that this video helps to distinguish between those two concepts for you parents out there. And for you parents out there that are giving your kids every single thing that they want whenever they want it, I'm just hoping that you might be mindful of what you're actually creating. Think about this in a very self-reflective way. Are you doing what's truly in the best interest of your children by giving them everything that they want whenever they want it? I feel like it's super important that kids learn how to hear the word no. No, sorry, not doing it. We're not getting it. Not today. Maybe next time. Nope, you don't need it. And they have to learn the difference between need and want. Super important concepts. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you find value in our videos, please hit subscribe. And I promise when you hit subscribe, you're not paying money and you're not going to get junk emails from me. But it is a way for you to show support for some of the parenting messages that you're hearing in our videos. Hit like, hit share. If you've got a friend who's going through this, definitely share this video with them. And I hope that you have learned. If you have any comments that you could share with other parents, definitely hit the comment section, share your ideas, share your thoughts, share your experiences, because the more we share, the more we learn and the better parents we become. So until our next chat, I appreciate you joining us, and I will see you next time.